All right, guys. So the first thing I have to talk about today is my newly completed Libyan skirmishers. So you'll notice they're in all in red tunics. So that is kind of what the historical sources seems to suggest. Ideally, they would all have brown hide leather shields, but I ran out of round shields, or I couldn't find my stash of round shields. So I had to give a bunch of them the Thurea shields in white that maybe they have taken from the Carthaginian armories. The base of them was made from the Victrix Carthaginian infantry box, whatever that's called, but you only get 12 skirmishers, and I wanted more. So I basically kind of did some light conversions on any unarmored dudes I could find, for example, from like the Peltast box. The frustrating thing is you only really get a certain number of heads, and for each hairstyle, you only get like one face. And my assumption is or not my assumption, but my understanding is each Libyan tribe had its own associated hairstyle. So you kind of have to mix all the different hairstyles together in each unit, or else they would look kind of just like clones. But anyways, I mixed in some helmets for the same reason, just to make up more figures. So that is the Carthaginian progress for this week. It is going to be not until the end of February when I have some more Carthaginians done. I'm just working on this big a big lot of Carthaginians. I have too much to talk about with my Carthaginian project today. I wanted to make a little longer video in case maybe you are, at the work desk or something. Personally, I kind of prefer videos that are maybe at least 10 minutes long because usually when I'm watching these videos, I'm not just watching them to watch them. I'm usually doing something else at the same time. So what I thought I would do is maybe waffle on a little bit about some of the goings on in the wargaming world. Okay, some of the new things coming out. So the first thing that struck my eye was from Wargames Atlantic was this partnership with Piano Wargames to produce these French infantry, and these struck me as just really being another step above of quality for Wargames Atlantic. So I've bought Wargames Atlantic stuff in the past, and I just haven't honestly been that impressed with the sculpting in general. The figures I've found have been they're just like there's something just kind of off about them for me. Now I have used them, especially like so in my ancient Germanic project, I used their Goths, and I mainly kind of stuck Victrix arms and heads on the bodies to get some variety. These to me look absolutely fantastic and kind of probably look like some of the best sculpted Napoleonics out there. So I think this is quite exciting that they're doing this partnership with Piano War Games. So I guess you get 28 figures in the box. What I am curious is how much this box is going to retail for. Actually, I guess we can probably see here $38. So almost $40 for 28 figures. Let's see, what is the actual price per figure on that? 38.95 divided by 28. So you're looking at about $1.30 per figure, which I feel like is a little on the more expensive side. I feel like back in the golden age, you could kind of get a plastic figure for like 50 cents on the figure. But the quality, I think, is really astounding. And if you're in the US at least, I don't know the about Europe, but Wargames Atlantic does free shipping if you basically buy like two boxes off of them. So with the free shipping, it might well actually be quite reasonably priced compared to stuff coming in from the UK. I don't know about you guys. I know most of you are in the United Kingdom, but man, some of the shipping costs to get miniatures over here to the United States is like outrageous. For my Carthaginian project, I was looking at getting a few odds and ends from Aventine Miniatures, and the shipping was like almost expensive as the miniatures themselves. So I didn't even place the order because I know I've got some family that's going to be traveling to the United Kingdom over the summer, and I'm thinking about just ordering it to their hotel or something like that, and they can bring it back over the summer. Um, who knows? Uh, there are some other odds and ends I've been trying to get from the UK, which it's just basically impossible now. I don't want to go on this massive tangent. I probably will if the products actually get to me. I had to be a little sneaky, but hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, it doesn't get intercepted. I mean, it should be by the book. I just had to use some sneaky methods to get a few things in. Hopefully, if that packages arrive, I will tell you that whole saga. But anyways, these did catch my attention. If you've been following this channel, you'll know I'm mainly a ancients guy, but I have been curious about dipping my toe into the world of Napoleonics, and these definitely sparked my interest, caught my eye for the Napoleonic stuff. Can't say it's going to be happening anytime soon, but there you go. I think what would be interesting is if the Piano War Games comes out with um, Austrians. I know they have Austrians on their website. The only other plastic Austrians are the Victrix ones and the Perry ones, and I find the Perry Austrians to be a little bland, and the Victrix Austrians to be a little deformed. I don't know. That's just my opinion. And if I was gonna do a Napoleonic project, I think France versus Austria is kind of where my heart lies on that. I'm definitely an Austria fan, and of course, I feel like you got to do a French army if you're into Napoleonics. But yeah, the British versus French is slightly less interesting to me, and the Austrians are really probably my most interested army. All right, so what else was on the horizon, or what else that came out to me that I found was interesting is Warlord. They're actually starting to release these Hail Caesar supplements again, which is pretty exciting. Now I can't remember if I guess, I mean, it was last year, but earlier last year they did release the Rome in the East supplement, which I will pick up at some point. Now I don't play Hail Caesar. There are some things about the rules that I like, some things about the rules that I don't like, but I think these look good as like campaign books where you can adapt the campaigns or scenarios to different rule sets. So, and I won't say I agree entirely with some of the stuff they put in their army lists. Sometimes I think their army list can be a little gamey too, and I also think they can sometimes be kind of arbitrary, to be honest. They're not necessarily like really reflective of the historical armies to a certain extent. But this one sparked my interest. This is a period I'm like super into. So this is one I'm probably gonna pick up the PDF rather than the book itself. But what I did order is some of this stuff did strike my fancy. So I did put an order in for the Antigonid heroes, not even to use them as Antagonids, but this this dude to me, who is supposed to be Antigonus Monothalmus or whatever, Antigonus the One-Eyed, he to me really struck me as a Hannibal. So I actually ordered this guy specifically to be the Hannibal figure in my army. Now this looks like kind of basically a reskin of their Caesarian heroes, for better or for worse, but I think it'll be pretty doable. I think these boots are a little outrageously large. I think hopefully when it paints up, they won't look as comical, but I think it looks pretty obviously they just slapped some green stuff over the previous boots. um, but either way, I mean, I think this guy will make for a pretty good Hannibal, actually. And the Demetrius the Besieger, I'm kind of torn whether he'll go on the same base as perhaps a Carthaginian lieutenant, or whether I'll save him to be a Macedonian when I get back to when I upgrade my Macedonians. Now, $23 for two figures. I mean, it's kind of bank robbery, but I did end up, just kind of saying screw in it and picking those up. I did actually pick up these heroes as well, the Diadochi or whatever. This Ptolemy figure I just quite liked. This pose and with the Kazia. So the Kazia is like the Macedonian hat, rubbing his brow. I just thought that was kind of a unique figure. So I picked it up, and I just love when manufacturers have Macedonians wearing these Kazia caps, which was a real kind of symbol of Macedonian identity. So then the other figure, who did they call this one? Cassander, I think. Yeah, this figure looked a little more dinky to me. I don't know. That dog looks like it has problems. Let me put it that way. Kind of looks like the dog from Wallace and Gromit. Is Gromit? Gromit's the name of the dog, or is it the robot dog from Wallace and Gromit? Do you know what I'm talking about? It looks kind of like a Wallace and Gromit kind of dog. What I think I'm going to do with this figure actually is I think I'm going to chop the head off, and I think this one might make for a good Numidian prince. But there just looks like there's something off with this figure to me. I think it maybe is the size of the head compared to the body. It's kind of a weird pose. The Ptolemy figure looks better to me. But this one, I think I'm going to chop off the head and put a Numidian head on to be a Numidian king/prince for the Carthage project. So as far as some of the other stuff goes, I mean, having some of this Hellenistic artillery looks pretty good. I mean, it'd be nice if they had a little bit more crew variety, but I mean, I think this is useful to have. Same with the Gastrophetes, like you really only did 3 figures. Like it would be nice if you did like a full 8 figures that were at least slightly different. Now, I think in Hail Caesar, that game, people do take ancient artillery. The ancient Greeks, I mean, there were actually some situations where they used artillery in the battlefield, and one, including in the Macedonian and Seleucid wars against the Romans. Now, all of those cases, the Macedonians or the Hellenistic forces were entrenched, and the artillery was part of their entrenchments. I think when the Seleucids landed troops in Greece to fight the Romans and they fortified Thermopylae, I think they had a bunch of artillery and stuff in those fortifications. So, I mean, in the ancient world, these were mostly used for sieges rather than as battlefield artillery, but there are some, legitimate uses, I would say. Coming out with these Illyrians is kind of cool. I mean, to me also, they do look a little dinky. I mean, I don't love the warlord painting style, but I don't know, they just look a little off to me. The price point, unfortunately, is again kind of painful. Is this $19 for 4 miniatures? That's kind of painful. What is the full unit? Is that the Nobles Regiment? $72 for. Does it even say how many miniatures count as in a unit? I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing it, but I'm guessing there's like 24 in there. 24 for $72. I'm curious how many people are going to be buying this, which is a shame because it'd be cool to have some Illyrians, and not really, I would say, for this period. I think even by this period, they would look a lot more Hellenized. I think also these shields should be a lot smaller. I think they would actually be more like Macedonian phalangite size shields, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I believe that's where they got those shields from. But I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But these would be really nice for like the time of Philip and Alexander. And if you're not super familiar with that period, Philip, Alexander's father, came to power after his brother, who was the actual heir, was killed in battle with the Illyrians. And a lot of those early wars in Macedon's rise to power were actually against the Illyrians. So it would be kind of cool if there was a more. I would love to see more stuff like the Illyrians, but $72 for one unit, like no one's going to be making, or at least most people are not going to be making armies for these guys, especially as they're kind of more niche at that price point, I would say. There might be like an allied unit perhaps, which is a shame, I think. This Pyrrhus figure, yeah, I don't know. There's something with this figure just looks off to me. Um, Maybe I'm seeing things wrong. Feel free to correct me. I do like how they made an attempt with the head to base it off of the really famous bust statue that is claimed to be Pyrrhus, which I think is cool. But I don't know. This figure just doesn't quite do it for me. I think Aventine's Pyrrhus is kind of like the gold standard in my mind. Also, Pyrrhus, he's known as a general for being this like absolutely ferocious dude. So, would have been nice, I think, if they kind of embraced that a little bit more. But something about this figure just looks kind of cartoonish to me. But anyways, I don't mean to like shit on Warlord games that hard. I am quite interested in this supplement. I know I will be picking it up in PDF, and I'll be picking up the Kingdoms of the Far East one as well. So I did, as well as picking up these characters, which were a little pricey. I did pick up some, casualties from their other Hail Caesar ranges. They had 15% off on Hail Caesar, and a few odds and ends to get the free shipping well, you don't get free shipping to the U.S., but they pay your shipping back, I think, if you ordered a certain amount. I forget the exact terms, but I did enough to get the deal on the shipping. And then when I get my shipping reimbursed, of course they reimburse you with Warlord dollars. I'm going to basically get the PDFs for free, quote unquote. Reimburse the coupons or whatever to get the PDFs. Thing I wanted to talk about on this ramble was so Victrix just released these Islamic horse archers who would really be, it says Seljuk and Turkoman horse archers. I don't know why they just don't say Turkic horse archers or something instead of Islamic horse archers, but this Crusades period is one that is of great interest to me. I actually have a pretty much almost an entire Victrix Norman army purchased kind of with the intent to use it as a early crusading army, which that army is in a very unfinished state. Let's just put it that way. But now that Victrix has kind of come out with these horse archers, that might be a motivation to actually get this show on the road with that project. Get all the Frankish forces done, and then it can go crazy with the the enemy side. So I think the Crusades, I think in some ways it's kind of an underappreciated period, and also a misunderstood period. Definitely one book that really got me interested in it is I think it's is it Seven Myths About the Crusades, something like that. Yeah, the original one in the series is Seven Myths About the Spanish Conquest, which was the first one that I read in that series. And that one, if you're interested in like colonial American history, like mainly like the conquistador period, the Spanish conquest of South America or Latin America, I would say that's actually like an absolute must read if you have really any kind of passing interest in that Spanish colonization of the Americas. But they did a follow up, I think, Seven Myths of the Crusades. So I read that, and that got me pretty interested. And then Stephen Tibble, who is actually a wargamer himself, he's written a number of books on the Crusades, and I've read a number of other larger histories of the period as well. And I think there's just so much going on in that time period. It's just absolutely fascinating. But anyways, if you are doing I mean, really, depending on the period, there are multiple Islamic factions. Oh no, I said the word factions, which I know Yorkshire Gamer is always ranting about factions and wargaming and how it doesn't belong. But there are several different Islamic powers, let's say it that way. So there's the Fatimid Empire, at least during the First Crusade, based in Egypt, which these guys would not be super appropriate for the Fatimids, but for the kind of Syrian city states and, the different more Turkish influenced powers, like most of your army is really going to be these dudes, these horse archers. So, um, you they did have pretty sizable heavy cavalry forces as well, but they would just recruit hordes of these guys off of the steppe. But also these could, you know, I'm actually just on a mega ramble, but I'm excited. I'm just saying I'm excited Victrix released these. I think they look really good. It's been hard for me to hold off on purchasing these. I'm just a little overextended on my kind of ancient purchases. I'm kind of at my miniatures limit for spending. I also made some eBay purchases, some questionable eBay purchases. Some of the stuff been buying off eBay, and these are just metal miniatures. I've been buying unpainted metal miniatures. I've been buying off eBay. Some of them I'm kind of excited about. Some of them are a little disappointing. So every so often, this will be the last part of the ramble. I go on eBay just to see what's out there for kind of like defunct manufacturers. So Renegade is one that closed shop that does a lot of ancient stuff. I bought some Romans, Renegade Republican Romans that I found on eBay, and they're kind of big, chunky dudes, but I think they'll paint up pretty well. Uh, and I think they'll be a great mix in. And I think once they're mixed in, you won't notice as much. I did buy some Navigator miniatures, which that was a massive regret. They're really like true scale 25s to the point where they're like a totally different scale than 28. Like they're not just small dudes. They are just like a totally different scale. I've never seen miniatures that small. And were they kind of cheap? Yes, but I regret the purchase. I'm not sure if they'll integrate into the army. Some of the pictures I found online of the Navigator stuff, it didn't look too bad, but in the flesh, it's just, you know, they're just a different species than the modern 28. And then I actually found some Black Tree Design stuff, which I just ordered today. and I guess it'll arrive in a week or two. And that stuff I think will scale pretty well with the Victrix, or at least scale well enough to be its own unit in the armies. But some Black Tree Design Celts for the Carthage stuff. But I really gotta exercise some discipline, and stop buying shit. And I think on the flip side, like I would say I'm a more productive than average painter. So I do stuff that I buy, I do tend to crank through it, or I do tend to buy stuff, on theme or with a purpose. But the treasury doth protest, and I think the biggest thing holding me back from doing some crusade stuff is knowing that I have all these Carthaginians to paint, and doing the even the stuff I already have for the Crusades is gonna put me back on the Carthaginians. That being said, I think I should have all my Carthage stuff painted by the end of the summer. So if that's the case, then I think I might take a break and do my Frankish forces, which I got some exciting stuff planned for. So maybe unexpected things, and then it'll be on to the Republican Romans probably. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just kind of ranting to make a longer video, maybe give you something to listen to while you're painting. But that's basically it from me. One last thing: by the time I get my next like video up of my painted miniatures, I'll have basically all my African infantry done. And what I'll be able to talk about then is some of my recommendations for building out that African core of a Punic army. But anyways, that's it from me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.